Hi, welcome to Moon Cursor. We're here on the east bench of Osoyoos. I'm here with Christian. I'm Chris. We're both winemakers here at Moon Cursor. And we're going to do a little comparison of Tempranillo from the old world and our Tempranillo here from the east bench of Osoyoos. We have a Rioja and we have a Douro Tempranillo. They're nearly 100% Tempranillo.
What you'd kind of expect from these wines, the Rioja is a little bit a little bit more on the north end of Spain, so you get a little bit of a cooler temperature. They're still quite warm, obviously, since it is Spain, but in comparison to each other, the Rioja might be a little bit of a cooler climate next to the Douro, who gets a little bit more growing degree days, a little bit more, I say. It's about 400 or so growing degree days between the two. And we're sort of slotted right in the middle of that with about 1,600, where Rioja is about 1,500 and the Douro is about 1,900. So our style should, in theory, be somewhat in between both of these, with the Rioja being sort of more fruit-driven, a little bit more American oak on that, so it's a little bit more spice, where the Douro, since it is warmer, you should have this nice, dark, rich, sort of espresso-y type of wine.
Yeah, so that's our theory on these wines. Well, that's the common accepted, idea about these areas, and so we're going to see if that holds true. So I'm going to start with the Rioja. This guy, very interesting. 22 months in oak, 18 in barrel. So there's a lot of prep time here. It's a 15. So with the 22 months and the 18 months, this is a fairly new actual release, being a 15. So I pour it into Christian's glass here. We can see it's kind of, sort of not transparent, but translucent red. It's not completely opaque. It's got nice color to it, nice cherry color to it. Spoiler alert, we tried these wines before we shot this, so we know what the answers are. But quite like this wine. There's a lot of wood on it. Christian and I were mentioning 22 months, so you kind of got a little wood, mainly on the palate and a little bit on the nose. But I like this wine.
Yeah, this is kind of what you'd expect when you taste a Rioja. A little bit more sort of. You picture Spain and you picture Portugal and you picture sort of brick and red clay, and you do get sort of that rusty brick color in this as well. And then the nose brings a lot of spice. There's a little bit of cinnamon in there. There's a little bit of that sort of sandalwood, as Chris was saying, on the nose. But the palate, it really, really comes through with this nice sort of wood bite that this would be a fantastic food wine.
Yeah, for sure. Then moving on to the Douro. So we're expecting big, dark, completely opaque red here. As I said, we've tried these earlier, so we know the answer is not what we actually get. I bought these up in Penticton, which is hour north of Osoyoos. It's a smaller city, so there wasn't a lot of selection. I tried to keep them in line with the Moon Cursor one, which is about 30, and these are about 30 as well. This one curiously says 10 months of barrique aging, which doesn't seem like something you'd want to advertise on the bottle, but because we got 22 months over here for the same price, I don't know what's with that. And then we don't get the color we were expecting. We end up actually lighter than our Rioja. So not as rich a nose as we'd expect. We'd expect sort of like nice, bright fieldberry characters here, raspberry, blackberry, and then we'd expect more into cassis here. Pardon me, mix those two up. We'd expect more cassis, more dark fruit, and this a little bit lighter fruit, being the Rioja, the lighter fruit, and dark fruit from the Douro.
It's also a little bit different of a production as well, where we've got 22 months in barrel and 18 months in bottle for this 2015. This 2016 Douro, we're looking at 10 months in purely French barrels as well. So there's a little bit of a difference where the American oak will give you a little bit more spice and a little bit, should give you a lot more vanilla, where the French oak should give you a little bit more elegance and a little bit more of that spice characteristic as well. And you don't necessarily really get it on this wine. I find it's a little bit more fruit driven, but not quite as intense as you would expect a Douro to be.
So the one on the outermost one is now the Moon Cursor, so the Soyuz Tempranillo. 100% Tempranillo, a little bit of French oak on it. We do about 12 months of oak aging on it. All of it is in barrel, but as I said, only 20-25% of it is new. So just a little bit of hint of American oak on it. It turned out to be the darkest, which is peculiar, because I would have thought the Douro would be a big ink monster. And then sort of closer to the Rioja on nose and palate for me. Is that
Yeah, same with me. It's we do use that American oak on this as well, so you do get a nice sort of oak impact right away. And then it's very classic Tempranillo, I think, to me. Just you get a little bit more of that earthiness, a little bit more of that clay, a little leathery with that oak impact in it. I think it's fantastic. And this is a 2016 as well, so it's in the same sort of ballpark as the others for vintage, and I think it's holding up pretty nicely comparatively.
Yeah, I do too. It's a little fresher. I find it's got a little bit more sweetness to it. Now, mind you, these both received a fair bit of oak aging to them, and they are, at least the Barogna is a year older. So, but all three of them showing Tempranillo characters pretty well. I don't want to say which one's my favorite because you probably already know. Anyway. Thank you for joining us for the tasting. We wish we could get you to come out and join us sometime at Moon Cursor here on the East Bench of Osoyoos, or visit us at mooncursor.com. Thanks.
My name is Bida Tolly, and for the past 15 years, along with my husband Chris, we have been running and operating Moon Cursor Vineyards on the East Bench, high up above Osoyoos Lake. We're here today also with Cara Burton, who is Executive Director and Curator at our own Osoyoos Museum and Archives. And we'd like to talk to you today about the history behind our winery name and our brand name and how it came to be and what it has to say about the winery as well as the area where we live in. Not many people think of this when they first consider Osoyoos, but Osoyoos is located right on the US-Canada border. There is a tiny little town on the other side of the line called Oroville, and there are frequent trips back and forth between residents of our town and the other town. Because of the border location, there used to be a lot of smuggling that used to happen in Osoyoos here that was tied into also the gold mining activity that used to take place here in the late 1800s and early 1900s. And so Moon Cursor is a synonym for a smuggler, and it makes reference to the fact that when the gold mining was at its peak here in Osoyoos, many people would come and mine the gold and then try to smuggle it back to the US under the cover of the darkness, avoiding border agents at all costs. And so when the moon would come out from behind the clouds and shine its light on them, they would curse it. Damn you, moon, is what we say on our back label. And we mean it. And so that whole story is what's behind our label. The whole symbolism of a mule and a fox trying to smuggle gold across the border is really the foundation of what we try to depict in our packaging. We have had a lot of fun with the whole smuggling and clandestine gold smuggling activity happening under the cover of the night, and so have our customers and our wine club members. It's been great fun. More importantly, however, what we really like about representing ourselves this way is the fact that the label indirectly really references the place where we grow our wines. And we're at the southernmost end of the Okanagan Valley, which means that we get the heat and the sun that we need to grow and successfully ripen the wine grape varieties that we are known for. The vast majority of our portfolio are big, robust reds, such as Cabernet Sauvignon, Petit Verdot, and Malbec. And those grapes, along with others such as Tonada and Tempranillo that we grow, require a lot of heat and sun. Just by way of comparison, we get about 1,500 degree day units here in Osoyoos versus about only 1,200 in Kelowna. So what that means is that you'll get way different grape varieties growing successfully here as compared to the northern part of the valley. In my opinion, that makes the Okanagan Valley one of the best places to come and visit, because within a fairly short driving distance you get to experience a whole range of wine types and styles. And so that is really the Mooncursor version of the history of Osoyoos. And here to talk a little bit about what really happened is Kara.
Well, I wouldn't say I really know what happened. I wasn't there.
That's true. But you have documentation and historical artifacts.
We do. And there is some smuggling and definitely a lot of bootlegging that went on in this area.
Yes.
When you visit Mooncursor, you can look right across the lake and see where the Dividend Gold mine used to be, which was the most profitable mine in the area, which during the Depression years was pretty big. It employed 65 men, which was pretty incredible for that time. So we've got some photos here, and looking, you can see Suia's Point, which we of course all know as Haynes Point as well, looking across at where the mine was on the other side of the lake. And so from Mooncursor, when you look across the lake, you can sort of see a reddish portion of the mountain. So that's right where all the mine buildings were, is right on the side of that reddish mountain. And then just below is where the camp was, where the men lived. And so it's really kind of a neat part of our history. As Beta mentioned, a lot of people don't recognize that. I mean, if you think of Osoyoos, you think wine and sunshine and all that fun stuff, but there is a little bit of a underlying dark side. And we were talking earlier, and I was telling Vita that we at the museum, I actually get people calling me because there is a legend that there is hidden gold in the hills from a gold brick heist. So if you are ever in the area, you can always go hunting for gold, but whether it happened or not, whether it's there or not, is all up to your imagination.
If you need one more reason to come and visit Osoyoos all over wine country, there it is. Possibility of untold riches that'll buy you a lot of wine.
Lots of hidden treasures.
Lots of hidden treasures, yes.
So that's a little piece of our history here in Osoyoos. Of course, to learn more, you can visit the Osoyoos Museum. We're currently moving up to Main Street, so in summer 2021, you'll be able to visit us at 8702 Main Street. And of course, check out Mooncursor Winery with Vita and Chris.
Yes, we very much look forward to seeing you here when conditions permit, which we hope will be very soon. For now, thank you very much for joining us online, and we hope you enjoyed this video and that it has provided some information that you will find useful and interesting, and that will make you want to come out here and learn more in the future. All the best.